Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Patel, for being here. Director Patel, when President Trump nominated you to serve, he aptly called you an advocate for truth, accountability, and the Constitution, who will bring back fidelity, bravery, and integrity to the FBI. You yourself have identified two important pillars in order to rebuild public confidence that include, first, streamlining operations at headquarters while bolstering the presence of field agents across the nation. I believe you just spoke to that. And two, second, ensuring that the FBI operates within the openness necessary to rebuild trust. It's a tall order, given the record of some in recent years, but I'm optimistic you'll be able to achieve it. I'd like to dig in on these pillars to get your perspective as we take your budget request into consideration and craft a final product. The President's skinny budget request rightly expresses its commitment to upholding undoing the weaponization of the FBI that pervades the previous administration, which includes targeting peaceful pro-life protesters, concerned parents at school board meetings, and committed Catholics exercising their constitutionally protected rights to express their faith. You described to us the state of the Bureau from when you were confirmed. Today, you highlighted with our Attorney General more than 200 federal arrests for crimes targeting children. You also spoke to the reorganization necessary to meet the mission of the FBI. The President, in his skinny budget, also described reductions in, quote, pet projects from past administrations and duplicative agencies. In addition to speaking to moving employees out of D.C., can you expound upon this and how you plan to reorient the Bureau under this request?
Absolutely. So part of the process is not just putting people out sporadically, throwing darts on the map. What we've done is we've taken a process with the careers at the FBI and said, where are some of the most violent crime places in America? And we've apportioned the plus-ups across every single state in this country based on percentages of where violent crime has been in an uptick on homicides, on gang violence, on drug overdoses across the country. And so, for instance, in the state of Virginia, we're going to give a plus-up approximately 20 folks from the FBI should we have our full budgetary requirements. And then the next step is, what do you do with them in the field? And what we do with them is what we've already done, Congressman Cline, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, is we stood up the first in the country interdiction task force where we brought in interagency partners from around the state of Virginia and the sheriff's offices and the FBI and our DHS partners and embedded them in an FBI building 50 miles that way and said, go to work, because this is a hotbed of criminal activity. And in 1 month, the Virginia Homeland Security Task Force, as it was dubbed, arrested over 500 violent felons. 500 violent felons. And that wasn't by doing any new process or creating a new way to get after crime. It was done by letting good cops be good cops. And we want to take that plus up and that model to every state in the country, not because I said it works, but because it actually worked. And we've been asked by other governors and other senators and other representatives to bring that to their states, and that's exactly what we want to do, and we're planning to do that here.
And commend you for the accomplishments in the Commonwealth. Prior to the swearing in of the current administration, a report was released detailing how federal law enforcement used its virtually unchecked access to private financial data to deputize the financial sector as a de facto investigative arm. In particular, under your predecessor, the FBI manipulated the suspicious activity report filing process by encouraging financial institutions to file SARs based on names and other criteria shared by the FBI. This process appears to bypass the requirements of the Bank Secrecy Act and allowed the FBI and possibly thousands of other law enforcement officials to obtain warrantless access to Americans' sensitive financial data through a process known as FinCEN query. Additionally, it appears that though 27,000 federal officials are able to download BSA data onto their own internal agency systems outside the purview of FinCEN regulators through the agency integrated access program. You've been working well with the Judiciary Committee, where I also sit, to provide some transparency into the past actions of the Bureau before your tenure. Could you describe some of the work you've done on this to still achieve the major successes you've had on arresting violent criminals while preserving civil liberties of Americans?
It's a balance that the FBI must strike every single day. To achieve the law enforcement capabilities, we've already talked about that, but to achieve the capabilities of restoring public trust and working with our overseers in Congress, we must actually work with our overseers in Congress. And every appropriate request for information we've delivered upon. And then it is up to the men and women in Congress to say, we need you to look at X, Y, or Z. We don't think this is working. Can you change this regulation or policy? I'm not the expert on all of it, but what I can do is provide you with every documentation because you represent the men and women of America, and in my opinion, y'all are the custodians of the records that we hold, except in some very scarce national security instances. But we have provided, on a large basis, unredacted documentation for every appropriate request we've received, and we'll continue to do that because it allows us to work with Congress directly to improve the process and make sure there are no warrantless seizures of American persons' data.
Thank you. Yield back.
Mr. Ivey.
Thank you, Mr.